One of the ways that people get justice, I guess you could say, for dishonest attacks when they're levied against President Joe Biden online is they'll go find something embarrassing about Trump. It's a dirty game. I get it, but it does yield some entertaining content. And this, of course, comes in the wake of something we spent a considerable amount of time on, which is these videos of President Joe Biden over the last few days, which show him supposedly looking disoriented and confused. But then as we reviewed, whenever you uncrop and see who he's waving at, he's not waving at no one. Or you unclip and show that 2 seconds after where they clipped the clip, he actually sits down and it wasn't an invisible chair, etc. Right? So we went through that. But here I want to show you a video that actually was put together back in 2018, almost 2019, while Trump was president, of him wandering off strangely and incomprehensibly, some might say. Then I'll show you, interestingly enough, billionaire Mark Cuban, who these days has been having some pretty good takes, and he clashed with some MAGA folks over this very stuff in an interesting fashion. And then I'll get to Hannity and different things in the segment, but all under that similar topical umbrella. First, here's this put together by Morning Joe back at the end of 2018.
Everything changes every which way. You got to hold on to what you need. And if I hide myself away, how could I go with the world on me? We can trust each other, always make things right. What is more important than loving someone right? La 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la. Everything changes every which way.
Yeah, so again, people wander off. Sometimes you get distracted, but as we've talked about in the past, I think it was on a Sean Hannity segment where as people went through his record on the air, there were all of these hilarious glitches or him calling people by the wrong name. And this is a really good rebuttal to people losing their mind over a mistake that Biden would make. And many of these aren't even mistakes. The recent ones aren't. I don't really understand why people are being so hyperbolic about some of these clips. And I'll show you one of them here in a second. But it is a nice way to respond, going, maybe this isn't as significant as you think because your guy is constantly wandering off. But let's take a look at this exchange, super interesting, on X between Piers Morgan, Bill Ackman, and Mark Cuban. First, Piers Morgan said, "So embarrassing. The Democrats can't let this go on, surely," and put this clip attached. I'm going to pause your viewing of this video to ask that you subscribe to the channel, but also tell you, as you can see, different location. We're traveling right now in Wisconsin for a Trump rally. We're going to interview Trump supporters. Should be crazy, but very grateful to the guys for setting up a really good setup here in this rental house. If you want to support adventures like this and content like this, free, just clicking that subscribe button is greatly appreciated. So to me, and I'm not trying to invalidate, I would never, your feelings, but you're wrong if you're feeling something other than me. No, you might see this clip differently than me, and that's okay. But to pretend like that was a crisis when it was literally Biden just sort of getting caught up and staring around and waving at people, and Obama going, "Are we going to get off the stage at any time?" And we've seen moments like that. It seems like Biden just gets a little bit, like I said, lost in the people pleasing, and then Obama kind of wanted to go off stage and just got attention, put his arm around him. But of course, because it's not just this clip, it's coming from a broader set of context that is so laced with dishonesty, but people don't know that. So then it feels like, no, but this is indicative of something else that I've already seen, and Biden's just gone. And I think if you have a good understanding of the broader, more contextualized speeches or interviews or whatever, it's hard to make the case that many of these MAGA folks are making. But Bill Ackman said this: "I've been criticized by some for sharing these POTUS Biden videos, which appear almost every day. I have read numerous articles which somehow suggest that the camera angle, the duration of the clip, or some form of right-wing manipulation explains Biden's behavior on camera." And then he continues on, but it does explain the behavior. Like whenever they cropped out the parachuters he was talking to pretend like he was talking to nobody, or like I said, they cut right before he sat down and it was a whole invisible chair saga of he tried to sit in an invisible chair just because he sort of waited, then sat. And that was completely destroyed by further context. And I think part of the way we know that people are overreacting is anytime all of the eyes are on Biden, not in clip form, in a full speech, when the American people tune in, like the State of the Union, or I can bet you the debates can be the same thing, they scream, he was jacked up on drugs. Or maybe when he needs to show up, he shows up. And maybe when it's properly contextualized, it's not the crisis you think. And clearly, if you compare Trump and Biden, come on. Biden, of course, has his mumbles or gaffes, but clearly has a complex understanding of the subject matter at hand, whereas Trump doesn't seem to really even get, not necessarily just focusing on the glitches and the gaffes, that happens a lot with Trump too, but even just, does he understand what he's saying? And that's the more concerning thing, rather than normal aging, as Mark Cuban will say. You guys both, Piers Morgan and Bill Ackman, are so consumed with pandering to your Twitter followers, you've lost all objectivity. I'll let you both in on a secret. Both candidates are old, very old. They both are going to have senior moments, misremember, forget things, and have physical frailties. I'll tell you a not so secret. One is great at sound bites, but also thinks in sound bites. The other is awful at sound bites, but thinks in complete sentences. Voters will decide which we prefer. Then Piers Morgan says, I think Bill and I are more consumed with reality than you seem to be, Mr. Cuban. Then Cuban says, lol, you are 59, I'm 65. Guess what? Both of our hearing is going to decline. They're going to be things we don't hear well, don't see as well. Words that don't come as easily. Things that hurt when we move and slow us down. Things we forget and have to make a note of. Now imagine being 78 and 81. But as been stated by many, physical and sensory limitations don't reflect intellectual capacity. What matters to me is the ability to understand and deal with concepts, strategy, and bring together leaders globally. To have leadership skills, even if you do them while in a rocking chair. What are your thoughts on the many people who have worked in the former administration close to the president who have spoken publicly on the record about his intellectual, ethical, and leadership challenges versus the fact that no one has done so with the current president? Mark Cuban, excuse me? Absolutely beautifully said. Couldn't have said it better myself. And that's the point, right? I think as a society, we're so obsessed with surface level aesthetic stuff. And so Trump being loud and, painting his face, so I guess he looks younger, and being more energetic, that is enough for people. But Biden, who is an old guy, so he's going to be a little bit less energetic, but with that age has come, unlike Trump, some valuable assets, right? Intellectually and in terms of experience. And so the point here is that can we analyze the efficacy of governance, of comprehension? And I don't think if you watch a full Biden interview or a good chunk of it or speech, you actually can come away with it thinking he doesn't actually comprehend the subject matter. The only thing you can say is, oh, why is he speaking quietly? Or why is he sort of mumbling over his words? But again, we're so obsessed with but he's walking sort of in a frail way, or he's shuffling. That's sort of the obsession of a lot of people. But to me, that doesn't get to the core of what's important in a president. And I think there's an underlying characteristic of American society that sort of heightens that. And because of the soundbite versus complete sentences point that Cuban made, it's really easy for the right to weaponize the sound biteable moments or the very aesthetic stuff so that we ignore that clearly Biden has far more intellect, wisdom and experience than Trump. Now, by the way, they've gotten so obsessed with trying to make Biden look bad at every turn that now Hannity, I guess, sees this as a slam dunk.
Oh, it really makes you wonder just how bad is Biden behind the scenes, because in front of a camera, he's really bad. Here's yet another example from just a few hours ago. Take a look.
Get ready. Okay, this is gonna be pretty intense. So if you've previously supported Biden's re-election, you might have to question it after this.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, will the lack of a war cabinet? Are you worried about the war? Are you worried about the war cabinet?
Was he like barking? What was that? Anyway, so.
Hannity, I don't think your average American thinks this is bad.
Will the lack of a war cabinet? Are you worried about the war? Are you worried about the war cabinet?
Was he like barking? What was that? Anyway, so.
You know how they talk about Trump derangement syndrome? That's Biden derangement syndrome. Because any person's reaction to hearing just a whole room of people going blah, 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 is sort of like, gosh. So then he's echoing that back at them. But Hannity, oh, this is so disturbing. Our president is trying to be funny. Ugh. Trump would never. Now, the other key point that Mark Cuban made that people don't have an explanation for is things leak like the leakiest faucet you'd ever seen out of White Houses. You can't, and just governments, you can't keep huge stories secret very well, especially if it's one about how a president acts behind the scenes and how they are in meetings. And every person, it seems, not literally, but it seems, many people for sure have come out of the Trump administration, dozens, and said, this guy is like a toddler in his understanding of these subjects. We would have to come in and present these highly consequential issues as if he was a little he were a little child, and put it into sort of bullet points, and he wouldn't be able to read his briefings, so we'd have to put it in more visual form so he could get it. Would get distracted constantly, couldn't hold multiple thoughts in his mind. And so that's what tons of people have said, unfit for the presidency. Not a single person has come out of the Biden administration and said anything other than what I've been describing, which is he's definitely fit for the position. That's very telling, because it would be a juicy story if some of these Fox News narratives about Biden were true, for someone in the White House to leak that, as happens normally. You can't keep that type of story under wraps. But tons of people come out of Trump's administration saying that, none out of Biden. That's also a really important point made by Mark Cuban and many others. Let me know what you thought of all that in the comments. And if you want to get access to the daily members only episode of the show, you can do so by clicking that join button below.